Hello, everyone. Welcome to another BDPA Tech and Career Talk. I am your National Tech and Career Talk leader, Devin Jenkins. I serve as a commercial IT success manager with GE Healthcare, and also the founder and CEO of Share the Vibes LLC. So glad to have you all with us today. We have our friends from Vanguard Consulting Group. Always glad to see them in the room with us. So we're excited for another amazing conversation with an even more incredible speaker. So glad to have you with us as always. We want to make sure you are aware of who BDPA is and what these tech and career talks are, and what this platform is all about. So BDPA is Black Data Processing Associates. Organization was started in 1975 as a forum for providing technology education and building computer technology skills in African American youth, and making sure we have a strong pipeline of Black talent in the IT field. So that is one of our main focuses that continues to today. But we also have a collegiate arm as well, and our professional focus to make sure we're providing professional development opportunities, career readiness, and technical upskilling for professionals in the industry as well. So regardless of where you're at in your career, our goal is to advance careers from the classroom to the boardroom. It's what we're all about, and it's what we'll continue to do. Coming up on year 50, next year is going to be a big year for the organization. So make sure you're in Atlanta next August for our 50th celebration at BDPA Con. It's going to be an amazing time. Our Tech and Career Talks take place on the second and fourth Friday of each month. We have a range of speakers, 1 hour long. And these sessions cover everything from AI to brain machine interaction to working with jerks in the workspace. We give you something for everybody. So everybody can take some value out of these conversations, regardless whether you've been in your career 1 day or 50 years. It doesn't matter. We have something for you. So make sure you click like, share, subscribe, comment below, click the bell so you know we're live, and share this with somebody who needs to hear the message. I'm getting good at that influencer speech.
Yes, yes, yes.
So make sure you do all that. Tag us, let us know your thoughts on the conversation if you're watching this on YouTube. And as always, this is housed on our YouTube channel, National BDPA, where you can find this conversation as well as all of our previous tech and career talks. We want to make the information available for you, regardless of where you're at. So thank you for being with us. We're excited to have you. And without further ado, I will turn the floor over to our partners with Vanguard Consulting Group, who are facilitating our conversation for today.
Right on. Thank you, Devin. From the classroom to the boardroom, right? I love. I say this every time we do this. Excited and always love working with BDPA. From our inception as far as partners to present and into the future, we see the amazing work they've done. Obviously the resilience that they have gone through to be celebrating 50 years. So we want to give an extra little applaud to that, because that's huge, especially as a Black organization, a Black tech organization at that. Today, good morning and welcome. We're super excited here. My name is Akil Bektimba. I am the president and CEO of Vanguard Consulting Group LLC. My partner in impact, I like to call her, Amara Tennessee, who you also see, is our director of programs. And I are thoroughly excited to kick off this conversation with our friend, slash serial entrepreneur, slash certified accountant, slash advocate, slash trainer, slash mom, slash amazing guest, Taisha Walker. And we're going to be having a great conversation with Taisha about her career, her life, and what she sees as the future. And so Ms. Walker is known for intelligence, strength, ingenuity. I do my whole Steve Harvey, so go on and just sit back and let me finish. Strength, ingenuity, personal, professional resilience, that's a big one. And just activism for underserved and underrepresented communities. And so we're excited to have her. I'm going to let Amara jump in and do a little housekeeping, and then we will introduce our guests and get going.
Well, thank you so much, Akil, for that intro, and good morning to everyone. My name is Amara Tennessee, and I'm the Director of Programs with Vanguard Consulting Group, LLC. I echo Akil's sentiments about our excitement, not only to be back with BDPA, one of our incredible partners, but to be speaking with Ms. Walker. We're really excited for this conversation, but a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Throughout today's discussion, we will field as many of the questions that you have. You can go ahead and put them in the chat as we're going through the conversation, and we'll be sure to answer as many questions as time allows. So be sure to use that chat feature down below, but we're really excited for our conversation. Akil, do you want to get us started?
Yes, 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 indeed. And we will, and we'll also have a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. So if you didn't get a chance to put your question in the chat, we will have a little bit of time for you to come on and speak and ask your question or engage with our guests. So please, be part of it. We're looking forward to it. So let me, without further ado, today's session is called Breaking Barriers. And it's really to talk just about the visionary leadership, life and legacy, business and empowering communities that Ms. Walker does in her life, and then just kind of dig into it. So good morning, Taisha. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you.
Good. You want to do a quick intro? I know I kind of laid the red carpet out, but do you want to kind of just give us a intro to who you are and what you have going on, and then we have some questions, obviously, that we're looking forward to asking you.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you again for all the kind words in the introduction. I hope I can live up to everything that you said about me. So a little bit about me. I was actually born in Jamaica, Queens, New York, and then we moved to several different places. I ultimately landed in Houston, which is where I consider myself to be from. It's where I spent the majority of my time and had my kids. So from Houston, in Houston is where I actually started my career. I was an undergrad finance major, and so I started in a traditional kind of corporate finance role with Compaq Computers at the time, and it was ultimately acquired by Hewlett Packard. So I was there for a few years, and then decided to go back and get my master's because I wanted to get my CPA license. So I went back and did my master's at University of Houston and got my CPA license, and that's when I started in public accounting. And so public accounting was really what kind of really started my career and really exposed me to a lot of the companies and people that I worked with. A lot of the different experiences I had in public accounting are really kind of shaped. Sorry, I'm having trouble. Sorry, excuse me for that. So my public accounting experience really gave me the depth and breadth that kind of ultimately helped me have the skills that made me comfortable stepping into becoming an entrepreneur. So actually right when COVID started in 2020, I transitioned from corporate America into the world of entrepreneurship. And so that's where I am today. And today I have, my primary business is my logistics business, which I'm a contractor for Amazon. And I also do some real estate and have a couple of franchises in LA. So that's kind of what's going on with me today.
And I think that's amazing. So we're going to dig a little bit into it a little bit. So, and you kind of mentioned this, but your career started in corporate America, and this is for those, obviously all of us are in a time. This is a time, I should say, where transition and change is happening everywhere, and people are changing careers, people are starting careers, people are ending and starting new careers. So there's all these things that are happening, and so. For you, you talked about, started in, your start after graduation into corporate America, where you thrived in the roles that you were in with Fortune 100 companies. You mentioned the move, but what was the key kind of turning point that motivated you from leaving the corporate world? I know you talked a little bit about becoming, doing the public accounting, but was there anything in particular that happened? Was there a I don't know. But what was it that pushed you from the corporate world into entrepreneurship?
So I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I've always known that I was capable. And for me, the work that I did in corporate America was really about gaining the skills that made me feel comfortable taking that step. And so in 2020, it just kind of happened that I was at a point in my career where I felt really comfortable. I was at a good point in life where I had a good support system in place. and the opportunity presented itself. So it was really the intersection of preparation and opportunity that happened at the right time. And I took advantage of the opportunity. And a big part of that was the fact that knowing that I'm a CPA, the way I looked at it was, I want to go try this. And, you know, if all else fails, I'm always still going to be a CPA, right? The taxes are
Yeah.
never going to go away. Every company has accounting. So I felt that I had a safety net that I could come back to. And so I wasn't afraid to take that risk, because I do understand that risk and reward are definitely positively correlated.
Yes.
So, so it just kind of was the right time, and the opportunity was there, and I took it.
And I think that, you know, if I keep thinking, you know, what's the message, what's the takeaway in some of the things that we're talking about? And that is, you know, from there, you're talking about, one, you had a skill or a, you know, a degree or something that lets you know that, you know, you can, you know, you'll land on your feet
Right.
if it didn't work. And obviously it did. So next question is, someone who founded multiple businesses, from logistics to real estate to find, you know, your franchises. How do you define success for you, like personally and professionally, in that space? This is, you know, you're in kind of a few different lanes at the same time, and they're all, you know, they're all thriving at their own pace. Obviously, sometimes there's steps back and sometimes there's steps forward. But how do you kind of define for yourself the success, what success looks like in that space?
For me, success looks like choice and freedom of choice. So that can be in my time and how I want to spend my time. That can be in whether I want to try to expand into another area, whether I want to pursue another opportunity. But being in a position to make those choices and have the freedom to do that, for me, feels like success. And obviously, success financially is important as well. And that is definitely a factor. And again, that's in being financially stable enough to have the freedom to make choices on how I want to spend my money or what I want to do. So really, to me, it all comes down to freedom and choice.
What was what was it about? And I'm going to kind of dig into your three different kind of lanes. So what was it about the logistics piece that you were like, oh, I definitely want to get into this? What was it about, you know, real estate, which is probably more self-explanatory, but about real estate that said, you know, I want to get into this? And then, you know, your franchises, you know, running three different, you know, most of us run, if we jump into entrepreneurship, we run one business in one area, and we, you know, and you're actually doing it in kind of three independent spaces. And I'm sure there's some overlap, but what made you choose those three kind of lanes?
Yep. So I'll start with the logistics business. So with the logistics business, being that I'm a contractor for Amazon, they actually do a lot of the logistics. So what I actually do is mostly around leadership and around people and development. So that's where I spend my time in the logistics business and in managing risk. And it was, for me, the opportunity to do work and have a contract with Amazon, you know, was an incredible opportunity. And being in logistics and just being in that role, there's not a lot of women that are in that space, that are in the logistics space. And so, you know, and it's the same with public accounting. It's the same with CPAs in terms of being African American and being a woman in those professions. So I tend to like to play in spaces where we don't traditionally land, because for me, it's the opportunity to prove that I can do it. And that's, you know, kind of proving that to myself, that if this is something that I want to do, it's going to be a matter of the resources and the effort to make it happen. But there, you know, the way I view it is that there are no limits. And so if that's something that I want to do, I got to figure out how to do it. And if I'm willing to put forth the effort, then let's do it. And so so that's in the logistics. Now, the logistics business is one that runs 7 days a week, 361 days a year. So it's high stress and very high risk. So we're talking about anything in transportation, right? And we know, you know, that's a risky business. And so we've got, I've got trucks on the road, I've got drivers, they're out there making decisions, and, safety is a big issue. And so that business is very stressful. And, it takes a lot. And so that's kind of what led me to go into the franchises that I went into, because they presented a risk profile that was very palatable to me because it was low risk. And so I was trying to really kind of balance out the amount of risk that I have in the transportation business with something that was still an active business, but had a much different risk profile. Just because, that really helped me feel a little bit more comfortable in that and trying to balance that out. So, that's typically, a 9-to-5 business, just a few employees, which is kind of the opposite. I have a lot more employees in the logistics business. So that was really my goal there, was to balance out the risk in my business operations. And so that's why that was attractive to me. The real estate is my goal with the real estate was to generate passive income, right? Because I have this thing that I like to call, I want pregnant money. I want that's producing more money without me having to do anything. Right?
That's right.
So that's where I really, and you're, I know you're familiar with the Halter Group. And so
Yes.
that's where I hold some of my real estate investments. And that's a Black-owned real estate syndication group. And they do all the heavy lifting. And so they're the ones that are out doing the deals. And so for me, that, that's an investment that I can watch grow and, be proud of the portfolio and the assets they're putting together. And it doesn't require, much of my time or oversight. And so that's why, from the real estate perspective, that's my passive income lane.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And a couple pieces that I just pulled from there before Amara jumps in on the next question was, you said a palatable risk profile. I'm writing down some of these terms and some of these terminologies, and I think, and then strategically, the way you talked about how, one of your efforts was, pretty high risk, and then the other one was lower risk, and so it kind of balanced you out, and you were able to, mentally and physically handle that because of that balance. So I think that's ingenious, and I wanted to make sure that we pointed those out. Go ahead, Amara. You got it.
Well, no, I think that was a great lesson in kind of understanding the role of risk and how you navigate that. It seems like you have a pretty incredible business model that's working for you. So I love that you were able to share that and give us a little bit of insight. But I am curious about that transition that you described earlier from the corporate setting into your role now as an entrepreneur. What are some of the lessons that you learned that have shaped how you lead, or your leadership style?
So I'd say the biggest kind of lesson or things that I took away from my work in corporate America were seeing different models of leadership, different styles that people had, and figuring out and seeing what was effective and what wasn't effective and why, right? And also, one of the big things I think was really understanding power, organizational power, and how that works, right? And there's different forms of power. There's direct power, there's indirect power, there's referent power, right? Where you're powerful because of who you're connected to. So really understanding those things and how they work together and how you can use them to be effective, to, to gain influence, to help create opportunities, really looking at that and seeing what was effective, taking and emulating the things that were effective for me, were some of the biggest lessons that I learned in working with the different people in corporate America. Because at the end of the day, a lot of what we do revolves around people and our relationships and how we interact with people. And that's what really, to me, allows us to be effective and to get things done, because individually we're one person, right? And so you're always going to need that leverage. And so if you can figure out how to effectively connect with people, leverage people, and get things done, I think that's what makes people really successful. And so that's what I really focused on. And being in public accounting, being in client service, the firm that I work for, we didn't have assets that were out in the field that we had to spend money maintaining. So the firm spent money developing people because we were their assets. And so that put me in a really good space to where, you know, I received a lot of that development and training. I had an opportunity to really hone in on those skills. And those are transferable across whatever you're doing in every aspect of business and life, right? And so I think
100%.
those are probably the biggest lessons and you know, kind of what I took away from that and what helps me in that transition from corporate America into becoming my own entity.
So we're going to talk some more about business and entrepreneurship, but I think that what you were just saying and Amara's intro to that question was such a great segue into this next one. And you know, you and I had an opportunity to spend a little bit of time together and talk a little bit, even off out of business, just kind of personally. And so we were talking about our kids. I know you have 3 kids, and we were talking about, you know, kind of legacy. Who are we building these, you know, who are we building this business for? And why are we, you know, why are we outside of just, you know, what we want to provide to the community and to the customers and all those kind of things. So legacy is often a topic that successful leaders like yourself discusses, you know, and you usually discuss that later on in your career, you know, and you're going to do one of these after you retire and say, yes, this is all the things I learned and this is the legacy, right? But you've been really intentional about building legacy earlier on. And so how does legacy or the role of legacy play in your decision making now and the business you create? Because I know that you have these 3 kind of separate lanes, but in talking to you, you have so many ideas and so many other things that you may, you know, that you plan to do. How do you make that decision on, you know, as far as your legacy projects, what they are and how you kind of jump into them?
Yep. So let me start with, so to me, when I think about legacy, legacy is the lasting impact beyond my tenure, right? Because I'm human and I'm only going to be around for a certain period of time. And honestly, I don't plan to work for all of those years either, right? And so to me, legacy is what's going to be there after I'm no longer in the driver's seat here. And so when I think about that and I think about the decisions that I make, I try to look for things that can have a lasting impact, things that are sustainable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even in, you know, things that, you know, a particular business might not be sustainable, but then what's next, right? So how do we take this and how do we look at what's coming in the future and what we expect and how do we create something that can sustain that? How do we create something that can sustain and withstand, you know, business downturns? The economy is very cyclical. We have ups and downs. There's a lot of changes in political climate, right? And so it's really thinking through building something that can withstand, you know, those different cycles and challenges that are sure to come. We know that is going to happen for sure. So every time I make a decision and you know, when I think about, you know, getting into a business, I'm always thinking about the sustainability of it. And is it something that is lasting?
Wow, I think that's some incredible advice about the sustainability of businesses. I think, like you described, the economy is ever changing, the needs of people and kind of what their expectations are can be difficult to meet. And so I think being in a position to evolve and to grow is so important. And I mean, some of your businesses, like your logistics company, you've mentioned your partnership with Amazon. So that's probably one of the largest retailers in the world, and you've built a sustainable partnership there. So what are some of the strategies that you use to not only establish trust, but also credibility in a really competitive industry?
I'd say it's operational performance. So performance is always going to underpin the opportunities that you're going to get. And so they're not going to give me any opportunities to expand and run more routes if I'm not performing on the routes that I'm running currently. So just being very focused and intentional on understanding what their key metrics are, what drives them, what they're looking for, and incorporating that into what I'm doing and making sure that I understand that because that's going to shape the decisions that I make. I got to know what's important to them and I have to perform and I've got to be reliable. So in the transportation business, reliability is everything. And so knowing that I have to be reliable, I drive those same expectations to my team, right? And so everything, all of the, you know, programs, incentives, compensation, the structure that I put together is all put together around driving those same key metrics and having everyone own a piece of that and holding them accountable for that because I'm being held accountable for that. And so really just taking and embodying what's important to that business and what's going to make that business successful, and driving that into the values that me and my team operate with is key.
I mean, reliability, that piece is, I mean, that goes when you talk about transferable skills or transferable concepts, you can't beat reliability, right? And so, and it makes me reflect a little bit. Amar and I just had a meeting on Monday with one of our clients where we run a GED program. And prior to us running this program, they had unfortunately had, depending on what was going on, they might have had to cancel classes. They may have had to do, different things like that. And one of the things, kind of pats on the back, that we just got this week was that since we started the program 8 months ago, under our guidance, they haven't had a missed class, or they haven't had to cancel classes. So I know that is one of those things that that really resonates with clients, resonates with people, resonates with customers. And so, I just wanted to mention that, because that was another little nugget that I pulled from what you were saying. I think that is very, very important. So this is, thinking about you and the different industries that you are in, and the skill sets that requires, from finance to logistics to real estate. And I know that there are varying involvement that you have to have. As you mentioned, the Halter Group is almost self-running situation. And we all are trying to get that. You said pregnancy money. We call it mailbox money, but it's the same thing. That's from Nipsey Hussle. And so I just wanted to ask you, like, what advice can you give people who are aspiring and looking into diversifying their ventures like that? I know that you talked about kind of how you make some of those decisions, but just generally speaking, if someone, we tell people sometimes, find a lane and stay in lane, business gurus, and find a lane, find a niche, stay in that, those of us who feel like we're multifaceted, you have any, like, a nugget for us as far as saying, if you want to get into multiple kind of industries or different lanes, this is, what you should consider?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the biggest thing is being curious and asking questions, and not limiting yourself, right? I never, growing up, I would have never thought that I would run a logistics business. That wasn't anywhere in my view. But when the opportunity came, I was curious, I explored it, and I said, I can do this. And so I would say the biggest thing is, don't limit yourself, right? Don't limit what you think you want to do or what you think you're capable of. Really explore and really challenge yourself, and be comfortable being uncomfortable. And be willing to, take a risk. I believe in calculated risk. I'm not just going to jump off the building. I'm going to make sure, there's a nice little net down there, but be willing to take risks, because if you never try, you won't know. You're never going to make a shot that you don't take. Right.
100%. Yep.
Oh, yeah. But I think the key there is having that, having that fallback plan, having that skill set that you can fall back on is a saving grace. And so I think that would be my biggest advice. Have that, and don't limit yourself, and don't be afraid to take a risk.
Perfect. So this next one is a two-part. And so it's kind of at bookends on this particular kind of part of the conversation. But one piece of advice within an entrepreneur's first year, and then one piece of advice when someone is considering scaling.
So one piece of advice in your first year is know your business, know every role, know how to do everything that it takes to make your business run. So when I first started my logistics business, I was the dispatcher, I was HR, I was accountant, I did everything. And I did that because I needed to know and understand everything that it took and the way it worked, because for me, that was the way that I was going to be effective. That was the way I was going to know how to hire people who were going to be effective, know what skills I was looking for in people. And so for that first year, know everything, know how to do everything it takes to run your business from soup to nuts. And
you drive the trucks too.
And I drive the trucks too. I get out delivering packages too. Box trucks.
There you go. Exactly. Which, and I think that, when people, it's very, being the CEO or being the leader of your company, looks like a glamorous thing to some, right? And the fact that you just mentioned, you can drive the truck and deliver packages if it's necessary. You could do logistics. You could do the brokering. You could do each piece of the puzzle. I think is very key, and I think that's a piece that people should grab. So okay, the next part of it was now I've made it through. I don't know how many years and whatever your recommendation is, but what's a piece for scaling? Because you started with one truck.
Yep.
Now you have a number. So and then you start with one franchise, and now you have more than one. So how what would be kind of the precipice for us scaling, and what would be some advice in that area?
For scaling, I would say, really be thoughtful and methodical. Think about the complete picture, really. And for me, it all comes down to risk. And
Okay.
so I really was trying to balance out that risk and make sure that I wasn't, taking on too much risk at one time. And so I scaled in a way, to me, that was smart, right? And so I, was very diligent and understanding what it was going to take to scale and making sure that I was capable of not only scaling, but that I was still going to be able to maintain and sustain my other business, right? Because what I didn't want to do was take on a new business and put an existing business at risk. And so I would say it's really understanding, your financial ability to scale, and without putting other things at risk, and then also being thoughtful about your time. And so, starting a new business, taking on a new venture, I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot of learning curve there, and you want to make sure that you're prepared for that, and that you've mentally, set aside, and that you have the time to be able to do that. Because if you take it on and you really don't have the time, then you kind of got a lot of balls in the air, but nothing's really landing. So just really being thoughtful about your growth, and really planning it out, putting it out on paper, talking to people about it, hearing other people's experiences, trying to figure out, someone who's already gone into that area, what were their barriers, what were their pitfalls, and trying to save yourself some time and not make some of the mistakes that, that others before you have made. So I would say seeking that advice and guidance, and really just, having that be part of your plan, is important in scaling, for sure.
I hope all the entrepreneurs on the call are understanding what incredible advice you're being given right
Yes,
now.
your masterclass.
Especially those first year entrepreneurs. I think being able to do all the aspects and element of a job really shows that you know your business in and out, and no one can do it better than you. So you've given some incredible advice, and you talked a little bit about taking a calculated risk. And I think for a lot of people, sometimes that need to take a risk can sort of hold them back from diving into being an entrepreneur. But you've shown how you can prepare and be successful by doing some planning up front. And I wanted to know, with your background in accounting and your time at Deloitte working with taxes, how did some of that financial expertise help shape your entrepreneurial journey? And what are some of the biggest financial mistakes or missteps that you see entrepreneurs make?
So I think my time and background, my time in public accounting, and my background in finance and accounting, really just gave me a lot of the basic understanding of how businesses work, because a lot of every business comes down to its books and the numbers, right? So every corporation that's out there, that's what the shareholders are looking for. The shareholders are looking for value. That's always going to be in the financials, and every business decision is going to have a financial impact. So really understanding the full cycle of how each decision and everything that you're doing impacts your overall picture, which is your balance sheet and your profit and loss. That was really invaluable. And also just really understanding how the different areas of a business work together. So understanding the interrelationships and the interdependencies between, operations and finance and accounting, and the people that are out in the field, and really really seeing how they are truly interdependent, and they all impact and work together. That was big, and that was you know, very important. And just understanding the basics of accounting, the basics of, you know, profit and loss and how it works, and understanding how, you know, it's important to maintain and control costs, how understanding your data is critical, right? How having good data is important, right? Because if you don't know what's going on in your business, there's no way you can effectively run it, right? And so you've got to have good processes in place. You've got to have good books. You've got to have good records. You got to have good documentation. And all of that works together in being able to have the information that you need to make business decisions. Because if you don't know what your business did last month, or you don't know, you know, how much something costs you, it's hard to make decisions on that. And so all of those things come together. And that's why, you know, in addition to the finance and accounting, information and technology is so important, because data is really at the core of every business decision that needs to be made. And data visibility and granularity of that data is so important. Being able to really slice and dice your business and understand what the trends are, understand where there may be issues, right? And if you don't have good data because you don't have good systems in place, again, you can't make those decisions. So I think those are, you know, the things that were really important in that.
Yeah, and I want to echo what Amara says a few minutes ago, and that is just the jewels that you're dropping are amazing. I'm, you know, 6 years in business after working. So I became an entrepreneur, you know, after working for 25, almost 30 years, you know, and then said, okay, well, you know, let me try and do this myself. I am still, and that was 2018, 2019. I'm still like, I'm listening to you, and I'm interviewing you, but I'm also like soaking up everything that you're saying, just even for my own business. So I appreciate what you're saying, because this is really, like I said, these are really, really key pieces. So I'm going to ask you one thing real quick about the real estate, because you and I both are connected to Haltair, and we've had, you know, for those who are listening, there is an episode with Haltair in the archive, so you can definitely pull that up. They are friends and partners in the real estate side. So let me just ask you real quick, like, you know, real estate being, you know, part of your portfolio. For those who are interested in doing real estate, you know, as a way to build wealth, as a way to you know, kind of mitigate some of their risks and spread out, you know, some of their diversifying their portfolio, what would you say are the top 3 things they should consider before going into that you know, that area?
And I would say I would consider where you want to be in real estate. Are you interested in being, you know, in single family and owning, you know, single family properties and managing those? Are you interested in commercial real estate? You know, because there's various ways to get, you know, in commercial real estate, you know, if that's an area that you want to be in. So, you know, understanding what aspect of real estate you want to be in. Then next, understanding the different ways that you can invest in that, right? So you can invest in real estate through, you know, many different ways. You can invest through a partnership, you can invest through another entity, you can invest directly, right? So understanding your investment vehicle, and understanding, you know, what area of real estate you want to be in would be the first 2. The last one I would say is, you know, how involved do you want to be in it, right? Because that's
Great.
really going to drive your decision on the other 2 as well, right? Do you want to be doing the day-to-day management of it? Is that what you're interested in? Or, you know, do you want to take a more, you know, passive role and get the reports every month, or, you know, every.
Right.
So those would be the 3 things I think that I would consider if looking at real estate.
Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to shift gears a little bit to, you know, the community that we, you know, that we love and that we serve and that we're a part of. You know, you've been a vocal advocate for empowering underserved, underrepresented folks, especially in the industries like that you are in. You are obviously an awesome representation of what can be in those spaces. How do you create opportunities? How do you kind of intentionally create those opportunities within your business to uplift the communities that you serve?
Yeah. For me, I mean, the biggest way that I do that is through hiring. So I'm hiring people from our community. So, again, I think development's always going to be a function of opportunity. So being able to provide, jobs and a means for people to have income, is huge for me. And that, it's probably one of the most satisfying aspects of being an entrepreneur is being able to hire people from our community and, hire them, but also develop them, right? And
Yes.
to really
Yes.
understand what their goals are and to help move them forward in that. And whether that's with me or outside of me, but I want to make sure that if I know where you're trying to go, I'm going to make sure that I'm trying to give you every opportunity to build the skills that you need that are going to help you be successful in that area. And it's, being also creating, one of the things that I do is in my logistics business, I have tuition reimbursement for my employees. So they get like, up to, I think it's $5,200 a year to go get, and that can be used at a university, a community college, a trade school, because I think that's very important for people to build a skill. And so being able to provide that tuition assistance has, it's been big for me. And honestly, a lot of times I'm disappointed in how many people don't take advantage of that because it's free money, right? It's a free opportunity for you to upskill, to get a new skill. And, I really wish that more people would take advantage of that. But being able to provide that is one of the ways that I feel like I'm able to empower people in the community. The other way I would say is being authentic in the way I show up, right? And encouraging and celebrating, culture, community, and so creating an inclusive environment where people feel like they can be their authentic self and that's celebrated. And so those are probably the key things that I would say.
I
Wow.
love that. And I think that representation, I think there's one point that you just made about that those scholarship opportunities or those reimbursement opportunities, tuition reimbursement opportunities. I think that, messaging people get misconstrued when we talk about things being free. It's not free. You paid for it as a company, and you offering, but it is absolutely a gift, right? So, we want to make sure that they understand, man, hey, this is a gift for your career. This is a gift to your, personal development. The other thing that I loved what you said is, you're not just a boss, but you're a colleague, and you are, you don't, and although, you're in a position to say what happens, you're also present yourself as a peer. And I think that is intensely important when you talk about leadership. We see all these kind of memes and other graphics around leadership, and leader is up behind the rock, pushing it up the hill with the team, right? As opposed to the manager, so to speak, is up there barking orders, right? So I think that your style of leadership is what resonates with folks, and I can really, really appreciate that. And representation is critical.
Oh, absolutely.
And, thank you. When you talk about representation, I think that's from, I read the BDPA book, and I'm going to plug BDPA here because I've read the book and I understand that representation is why the organization started, right? 50 years ago. So it was because we need more of us in this space. And so, I can really, really appreciate what you're doing there. So representation is critical, excuse me, especially in industries like finance and logistics where diversity can be lacking. How do you see your role? And I think I already know kind of the answer to this, but I'm still going to ask, how do you see your role as a Black woman and CEO, influencing the next generation of entrepreneurs, and what kind of systemic changes do you think that are necessary in order to foster more diversity in business leadership?
So I'm gonna ask you to ask me the second part again.
Okay, all good.
But the first part, I think it's just being visible and being there and being open and being, sharing my story, having the opportunity to talk to people and, showing, other young Black females that if this is, what you desire is absolutely possible. So just being visible and, I love to reach back. I love to, spend as much time with people and just really talking to people and really building those relationships and showing people that, I'm just like you, right? We have the same story, we have a similar story, we come from the same background. Here's what I did, and being open and sharing everything that, I wish somebody had told me with everybody that I can.
Yeah, those are
So
great.
that's big.
So let me give you the second part real quick, because we have about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure that we
Okay.
get some fun kind of life stuff in here, because we want the 360 degrees. So the second part of that question was, and this is really serious, like the systemic barriers or systemic, what do you think systemically needs to change in order to foster more diversity in business leadership?
We need more exposure. We need more exposure, and we need more exposure at a much earlier age, right? The pipelines that we're talking about in terms of lacking in diversity in certain industries, that problem goes back to creating that interest, creating that vision at an early age. And so I think for a lot of people in our community, our parents spent a lot of time working, right? There wasn't a lot of time sitting down and talking about, what do you want to do, and is this possible, and what we see a lot of times in our community are not people that are in these types of roles. And so I think it's like, so important that we take advantage of as many programs like BDPA to show the youth what's possible, right? To just open up their eyes, to open up their lens to this whole world of possibilities. So with our age and experience, we've seen a lot. But if we can help other people see that at a much earlier point in life, I think it just expands, their interest, and they become interested in things that they didn't, even know about, or that weren't maybe native to them. So I think it's really exposure, and programs like BDPA are so crucial in that, in bringing young people into seeing what's possible at as early age as possible.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect transition to a question we have in the chat. What was some of the most important advice that your mentor or mentors provided to you to jump over a major hurdle?
Ooh. So there's a concept that I call ugly baby talks. And so no one wants to talk about a baby that's ugly, right? And so being able to have difficult conversations, I think, is probably some of the best advice, and to be able to directly have those in situations that could be uncomfortable or can be difficult. I think it was probably some of the best advice that I got. And so that's really, being able to do that and address things head on directly early on, was probably some of the best advice that I've gotten in overcoming difficult situations.
Any more in the chat, Amara, you wanna?
I think no, that is all right now for the chat.
Okay. So
I just
go ahead.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to circle back to what we had talked about a little bit earlier. Something you said, Taisha, that really spoke out to me was you said development is a function of opportunity, and you really focused on exposure to career and opportunity at a young age. And I had parents that were very, very proactive and were really, really instrumental in kind of instilling some career opportunity and exploration for my brother and I, and it definitely helped kind of guide my career path. But once I got to school, I had a lot of friends who sat and they had no idea what they wanted to do, and it was really hard to either find someone to connect with and learn more about different industries or opportunities, or even learning about entrepreneurship. I feel like I didn't really learn about entrepreneurs until I was out of school and working for and with an entrepreneur like Akil. But I think that mentorship and that relationship that you're able to build in corporate settings or professional settings is really important. And it's a tool not just for personal growth, but also your professional growth. So you talked about that lesson, but how has mentorship in itself, that relationship, played a role in your journey? And what advice would you give to someone who's seeking to be mentored by someone like yourself?
So I would say the biggest piece of advice is to spend time developing that relationship and really nurture that relationship with someone that you want to be mentored with. And, I know Akil and I have spoken, and I think we share a common belief that a mentor doesn't necessarily mean that someone that's more senior than you or older than you. A mentor can be someone that just has a skill set or just knowledge that you want to have, right? And so again, I'd say don't limit yourself to, thinking that a mentor has to be someone that's older than you or more senior in your profession than you, but really think about who has the skills or, the knowledge that I want to have more of, and, seek out proactively that mentor relationship and let that person know, hey, I really want to know more about this. I really want to get this skill set. And I think that, you've really got a good, handle on it. Or, I think you really have some advice that you could share with me. Would you be willing to do that? And then being flexible about it. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be, just in one particular form, but maybe it's in multiple forms, right? And so just be open to, different forms and different people in being your mentor.
I think I'm so glad you said that, because I was thinking about our recent experience together, and then many experiences Amara and I have had as it pertains to networking, right? And the fact that and we offer a strategic training on networking itself, because it is a skill set, right? And so I think two things in that regard. You talked about where, being in places, and that's so important, finding, in whatever industry you want to be in, finding where their convenings are and go, finding where, who in that space would be willing to give you some of their advice and some of their information, some of the things that they've experienced. And even beyond that, connections, sharing connections, sharing a network. We met through our mutual connections. And so it's so key. I met Amara through a mutual connection. And so I think, there's almost nothing more valuable than sharing our networks with each other and expanding our relationships and social capital in that way. So I really wanted to mention that. And then we talk about mentorship. Mentorship is key, and I love what you said, and we definitely agree that the mentor could be younger than the mentee, or vice versa, and it's really beyond the traditional kind of flavor of what mentorship is. It's really just, hey, I've done this for a little longer. I learned these lessons. Here's a map around the potholes and the jagged fences and the things that you could possibly avoid in order to do better business. And so I think that I appreciate you saying that. So looking ahead, because I know we're getting close, looking ahead, what are some of the next major goals you got coming up, and are you planning on expanding? Are you planning on, do you see some other business on the horizon that you're like, I'm getting ready to start a fashion line. I would buy it if you do. What is it? What is it? What do you see kind of coming up or around the corner for you?
So for me, two things. I'd say definitely expanding in the logistics area. Being in Los Angeles, I think there's a lot in the next 4 years, especially with the Olympics coming. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. There's a lot of opportunities for a lot of government contracts. And so one of the things that's a goal of mine is to put my business in a position to be able to bid on government contracts. And so that's one of the things that I'm working on. So I'd like to do that. So that's going to be a focus of mine. The other is expanding my passive income, because at some point I want to just ride my bike all day.
Yes, get that. And so, yeah, we need to talk more about the government contracting thing. And I know there's other people on this call
Yeah.
who's also interested, so we can expand that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
There is a comment in the couple comments here in the chat that I'll throw at you. One says from Takia Ellis. She says, and I hope I said that right. I plan to expand my real estate portfolio and provide affordable housing here in the Atlanta market. I'm currently using a property management company for my one investment property, and I love it. Open to suggestions, tips, and partnerships. So we, for that part, we definitely, can connect
Yeah, definitely.
on LinkedIn and other areas. But do you have a quick tip for Ms. Ellis?
Yeah, I would say if she loves her property management company, has she considered creating one? If she's going to build affordable housing, to also expanding and that creating her own property management company, emulating the things that she likes about what she's getting from the one that, that she's currently using. And, is that potentially another area? Because that's a nice complementary business to build the houses, but also to have another entity that does property management. And so maybe think about that a little bit.
Yes. There you go. So I appreciate that. So before we get off, tell us a little bit more about, because you actually gave me the perfect alley-oop on wanting to get closer and faster to that point where you are biking around the world.
Yep.
And just checking the mailbox, right?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about kind of just personally, like, about what you do in that space, and some of the hobbies and just fun stuff you like to do. I want people to get the full picture.
Yeah, so I started in about 2010. I started cycling. So I used to go to this spin class faithfully and loved it. And so the instructor one day said, "Hey, I'm gonna, start a group riding outside." And I realized, because, I was so focused on my career, that I didn't have a thing. And I wanted to make sure that right along with trying to, grow in business in my career, that I also gave myself, an outlet and had a thing. And so cycling turned into being my thing, and it's really my peace. It's where I do a lot of my thinking. And so it's, also something that helps keep me physically active and in tune with what's going on with my body and my health. And so it's a big part of, my life. And a lot of times, I do have to balance work with that. But what I would say there is that it's also very important to create a work-life balance. A lot of people don't have work-life balance, but not because they can't, because they haven't created it. And
Right.
so absolutely, it's important to me. And there are times where, I say, no, I can't do this because, I plan to go ride my bike. And so,
Right.
and it's, again, it's important for me for multiple reasons, but I think that the lesson here is really creating that work-life balance and being selfish about that time.
What a perfect way to end an amazing conversation. You have given us on the business side heavily many jewels. We appreciate that, and you being so open to share the game. I think the ending with it being about work-life balance was perfect, almost if it was scripted. And it wasn't. That wasn't. I just think that the fact that, if there's a message to leave, obviously, there are a lot of jewels, but if there's a message to leave to everybody listening to this, that is hugely important. Your mental health, your physical health, your family health.
Yeah.
And creating that balance is important. And like you said, if you don't create it, it won't happen. So you need to schedule that time, if it comes to that, schedule it, and make sure that you're putting some time for yourself and putting some time for the people you care about, even if it's just going out and sitting in the sun and getting some vitamin D and talking, I think that that's important. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for doing this, especially at such short notice. And it's been a pleasure. And I will pass it on to Devin. Oh, before I do that, Devin, real quick, Taisha, what are some of your handles, website, anything you wanna throw out there to the group?
Yep, I'll put it in the chat because
Okay, there's a bunch of them.
yeah.
Okay, all right, that's fair. So yeah, so we'll put that, you drop that in the chat, and thank you, Mr. Jenkins, for allowing us to do this again. We look forward to the next one, and hand it over to you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure having Vanguard Consulting Group with us and the wonderful guests they bring along. So thank you for expanding our network here at BDPA and my personal network. Every speaker we have gets a LinkedIn request from me. So I encourage everyone to do the same. Find Taisha on LinkedIn and across social media platforms. For those watching, you do the same as well. So thank you, Taisha, for sharing with us today. Many gems about breaking barriers to ultimately live the lives we want to live. I think that's simply what it comes down to.
Yep.
If you want to work 30 hours a day, you just make sure that's your choice. If you don't, then that's your choice as well. But we want to make sure everyone knows how to break the barriers to living the lives that we ultimately want to live. So thank you for this. We appreciate it. Thank you all for listening and tuning in. Again, if you're watching, like, share, subscribe, comment below, share this with somebody who needs to see it. And we will see you at our next one. Until next time, stay safe and stay blessed.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.